Welcome to Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. I'm an artist, photographer, and an author. In the late 80s, I created a band called The Empire Hideous. Until 2009, I was a PC liberal Democrat, after which I became an independent. I believe in science, and I consider myself an alchemist who seeks answers to difficult questions. You're listening to Finding the Truth with me, Myke Hideous. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Finding the Truth with me, your host, Myke Hideous. We have a wonderful show set up for you tonight. It's our first interview with somebody, and I'm really happy about this because I've known this gentleman for a couple of years now, about a little over 10 years or so. Like personally, I've known him, but he's done extremely well for himself and his bands. And name the guys Argyle Goolsby of Blitzkid. Now, he's also got his other band, the Roving, the Roving Midnight, the Hollow Bodies, and there's a couple other more things he does as well. So the guy is out there. He really works hard. I formally met him back in 2009, give or take. I was doing a movie, an independent film, and I knew about him, but I didn't know him on a personal level. And since then, we've kept in contact with each other over the years. And I've had the pleasure of performing with him in 2018, June of 2018, when he and I both shared the stage with each other for a memorial for one of my former guitarists for Empire Hideous and Spy Society 99, guy by the name of Jason Trioxin. So Argyle Goolsby and myself actually shared the stage in a couple of these bands that were kind of put together like a superstar kind of band, a bunch of different guys from other bands. And we were lucky enough to do that together. And I have to say this about Goolsby. And I'm not kidding when I say I'm not blowing smoke up his ass or anybody else's ass for that matter. He's one of the hardest working musicians I know, musicians, performers that I've ever met in music. The guy he's like on fucking crack, but like he does so much, and I really respect that about him. He is truly an inspiration for anybody who wants to. If you're looking to be into a band and know what it's like, if you could follow this guy's footsteps, you'd be amazing because he is really nonstop. And on that note, I would like to introduce Mr. Argyle Goolsby.
Hey everybody, how are you?
Hello, Ghoul.
Hey man, thank you for that introduction. That was very nice.
No, my pleasure. I meant
Appreciate that, man.
I meant every word of it. You have impressed me. You have impressed me from the day that we did that gig together for Jason Trioxin, and I saw you like you were in every single band. Like you played bass. I think you played guitar too.
No, it was bass for Mr. Monster, and then bass obviously for Blitzkid, and then there was also the Hollow Bodies thing that I was doing too. I was singing for that, and I think that's it. And then I jumped up with Robbie Bloodshed and those guys for a little bit too, and did some stuff with them that night.
What do you prefer more? Do you prefer the playing the bass or just singing?
I like them both. You know what I mean? Like I started doing both at the same time, so I'm kind of just used to doing both. But it was a little awkward for me after Blitzkid, I guess, took a hiatus in like 2012. I started doing the Roving Midnight, and that was my first, I guess, like foray into music where I didn't have an instrument like in front of me. And I felt like Will Ferrell and like Talladega Nights, where he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. I didn't know what to do. So it was kind of. Yeah. Exactly, man. It was a lot like that for me. So I didn't really. It was kind of weird. It was a weird transition, but I got used to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I liked the fact that I was untethered, I guess is the word. I
It's
could
kind
kind
of
of like,
freeing. It frees you.
yeah, you can kind of run out and just, interact a little more. But I do like playing bass though. Do you know what I mean? Because I guess I don't know if I have like a certain style or a certain way, but like I feel really comfortable playing bass. Like I like moving around with an instrument.
Mhm. Kind of probably like almost like a security thing, not even realizing
Hmm.
it's like it's just something there. I always felt secure holding the microphone stand in front of me. That was my
Right.
security, if you will.
Yeah, I kind of turned when the Roving Midnight started kind of developing. I still do it. I mean, I just haven't done it since COVID because that shut everything down, obviously. And like Blitzkid got back. I'm getting ahead, but like Blitzkid decided to reunite right at the beginning of COVID, and it was a long story. But
Right.
as I was going along with the Roving Midnight, I started like working with my mic stand. I put like pegs on it to where I could stunt bike pegs where I could climb on it and hop
I
around
remember
and
that. Yeah,
do
yeah, I
stuff. So
remember that.
it kind of
The
gave me a
show, the
prompt.
show at the Mercury Lounge. I came to see you, and you had that mic stand, and I actually approached you, and I was like, what's up with that mic stand? What's
Yeah,
with the pegs?" And I think you told me it had something to do with the BMX bike. I
yeah.
don't know if you ride them at all, but
I used to, like I was in my basement, and this was again like at the onset of the solo thing, and I was just like, I need to do something. You know what I mean? I just don't want to stand there. And then I just looked at the stunt bike, and I saw the pegs, and I looked at the mic stand, and I was like, it's worth a shot. And I didn't break my neck, and
that's
yeah,
amazing.
knock on wood. So yeah, I just rolled with it.
Good, good. That's great. That's an awesome thing. It's very unique. So let me start with a couple of questions that I have for you.
Sure,
Actually, I got quite a few, but we'll take them one at a time. So,
let's do it.
so if I'm correct here, you started Blitzkid in '97. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah,
And did you start that with your guitarist
yeah, with TB.
TB? Right. Okay. So,
Hmm.
um, tell me a little bit about the projects you're involved in now. So I know you're doing Blitzkid.
Hmm.
You're redoing that again. You've got the Roving Midnight, which is your solo project, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then you have the Hollow Bodies, which is an acoustic gig, right?
Yeah, it's a full band acoustic ensemble. It's the acoustic version of the Roving Midnight.
Oh, interesting. Okay, all right. Is there any other projects we should know about in your busy life?
So yeah, like I right now, as of last year, I've been the bass player for a band called Calabrese out
Right. Yeah,
in
I remember that.
Arizona.
I saw them. I saw them once in at no, before it closed down, a place called Connections in Clifton, right
Oh,
down
I
the road
remember
from Green
Connections.
Bay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they are fantastic. What a great band. So you were playing bass for them as well, huh?
yeah. As of last May, so they're a group of they were like three brothers,
Hmm.
Davey, Bobby, and Jimmy, and Jim decided to just retire from music, and they didn't really know what they wanted to do at first, and they decided to carry on, and I got the call and done a couple of tours with them so far, and some stuff this year in the plans, like in the works.
They're great. They are a great band. God,
Yeah,
you
they're.
are just all over the place, man. Good for you. Like,
I just, I feel very fortunate, man. I mean, I love playing music, so like, I try to make, time for it as much as possible. Like any opportunity that comes along, if I can make it work, I will.
so, which leads me sort of off the path here and the questions that I have. But I know you're a very talented artist, and I've seen. I just realized this. I didn't know this until I read your bio. You're a tattoo artist,
Yeah, I am.
and how long have you been doing that?
Wow. So it's been sporadic, and a lot of that is because of the music career thing. I first started my apprenticeship in 1999. And I was apprenticing at a tattoo shop in Roanoke, Virginia called Ancient Art Tattoo. And it was a great shop. Everybody there was like super awesome. It was my first time in a tattoo shop. I was there for about a year. Um, so at the end of my apprenticeship, they more or less just gave me an ultimatum. They were like, it's cool that you're in a band. Blitzkid at the time, that's all I was doing. But we need somebody full time if you're going to do
Right.
this. So
That's
you have to make a
horrible.
decision. And it sucked because like I wanted to do both. I mean, I went to college. I have a degree in fine arts, and a degree in history. And, I was like, I'm not going to do anything with either of these probably. So like I used the fact that I had both of those to kind of get that apprenticeship. Like it kind of gave me a leg up at that time in, that area, I guess, for the tattoo world. So I chose music, like it was a tough decision, but I didn't want to be the guy that was putting them out, and I also didn't want to stop what I was doing either, because at that point with Blitzkid, I mean, it'd been going for a while, and we were in the middle of recording an album called Let Flowers Die, when I got the ultimatum. So I was like, I can't stop right now, like I even asked them at one point if I could just wait until the album was done, and they were like, nah. And I'm cool with it. Like I was like upset about it at the time, but I understood like later. I was young, so I just kind of stopped doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to get back into that situation again where I would have to choose. And then fast
So,
forward a couple
so
of years
you're
later,
you're
I ran.
saying you're saying that you don't do it now?
Oh, I do. I was going to say so. So that's how it started, and then I took like an interim for a while, like a sabbatical from it.
Mm.
And about 2008, 2009, I started working with someone, and then I ended up back in my hometown working at a tattoo shop from like 2012 until 2015, and that was back in West Virginia. And when I moved to Connecticut, which is where I'm at now, my friend Brad, he has a shop up in Massachusetts. I started working with him, so I go up there by appointment now. I'm not like a full time guy. I come in on appointments. So what I'll do is at the beginning of the year, I'll block off my calendar, like more or less like what I want to do, like so many weekends a month.
Right.
And then I'll make that announcement on social media or through like my mailing list. Like if anyone wants to get tattooed this year, these are my availabilities. And
Right.
then they just kind of fill up from there.
That's a great thing. And I was going to ask in one of my questions, a lot of musicians who start out and get into a situation with the band, um, one of the hard and for me, one of the hardest things I found was finding musicians that were going to be available to do
Mm-hmm.
tours, whether they were national or international.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess my question to you is, was it easy to find other people that were able to go on tour with you, whether it be national or international? Because that's what ruined me. I could never keep a band together. It was always, well,
Yeah.
I can't go do this show, in Georgia because I got to work. And
Right.
these are guys with careers who don't want to lose their job. But how did you handle that? Do you even still work a full time job or a part time job? Any
Yeah, I do. I work at a nonprofit museum that I'm also vice president of in Connecticut called the Witch's Dungeon. It's a classic movie museum that's been in operation since 1966.
Oh, that's amazing.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. I work with monsters and movies and stuff like that. Pretty much all day. But to answer your question, yeah, like. I think what helped Blitzkid, because I mean I have done a lot of projects, and throughout the timeline of my career there's been a lot of things happening like concurrently or parallel to one another, but for the most part at the beginning, at least for the first 4 or 5 years, it was just Blitzkid. I think what helped us was just the fact that we were a three piece, number one, so there were like less people do you know what I mean, to like
Yeah.
um, to have to like contend with schedules.
Organize. To
Yeah,
organize,
exactly.
right.
To organize, and the other primary member of our band, TB, was also the songwriter. Like we were both songwriters, singers. So we were invested. There wasn't really anybody in the band who's just kind of like, I got nothing going on. Like we were both like really active in terms of like our place in the band. Um, and I mean, I think the hardest thing for us was just primarily keeping drummers. Do you know what I mean? Like that, like what you're saying,
Yeah.
keeping members. So for us, the only other member outside of the core, the two of us, was whoever was on drums. And we were young. We were a young band, and you know how it is. You get
Yeah.
people in, and it goes well, but then people's life changes.
That's right.
They go different directions, and like you
That's
said, some people have jobs and things like that. So we kind of went through the mill with drummers through our career, but it was never meant to be that way. Do you know what I mean? We just weren't going to stop. And most of the people with whom we played with and did leave, afterwards, like we're still on good terms with. It was just they understood what we were doing, and maybe it just didn't work with what they were able to do, and we just found
Well,
people that we could work with.
let me ask you this, if I
Yeah,
may, and if this is too personal, by all means, please tell me, and you don't have to answer it. We can edit it
sure.
out. Do you find now is the band in a place where you don't have to worry so much about having a job anymore, like a regular job? Is the band
Mm,
supporting you, so to speak?
no, no, it's not like that
No.
at all. No, I don't. We haven't hit that point yet. I think we're just kind of smart with what we do, and what we just try to invest our resources in stuff that it will at least come back to us, and maybe turn into profit that we can invest into more stuff. That's
Right.
always been the way that it is.
That's great.
Um, and it's just a lot of trial and error. So I think when people see like stuff coming out all the time, all the time, all the time, it's not that it's just randomly happening. It's we have to plan it. We have to be careful and like really take calculated risks and things like that sometimes.
Well,
But that's
the good thing about this, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, no, that's
The
fine.
good thing about what you're telling me is how you've got, well, you finally reached a point, I'm assuming, where you have members in a band that are in the same mindset.
Right.
Again, and not to harp on my history, but that's the one problem I always had was keeping a band together. And
Hmm.
I always found that if you can at least keep the main core of the band together, at least you
Right.
can keep going. But as you said, when you've got to retrain a new drummer, when you've got to retrain a new
Hmm.
guitar player, bass player, whatever it may be, that takes time away from opportunities where an original lineup who sticks together can continue to play and go places and do things. And when you have the right mindset, whereas you want to be like, all right, I want to do rock and roll. I want to be in a band. I want to tour. That is what I want to make as my career. When you have that mindset and you are dedicated to it, that's when you can get to the next level, which is a
I
level I
agree.
was never able to get to with my bands.
It's tough, man. And that's one of the reasons why when I decided to do the Roving Midnight, I was kind of conflicted about having a band that was my namesake at first, to be honest with you, because technically it's like Argyle Goolsby and the Roving Midnight. And the primary reason why I decided just to go ahead with that was because of Blitzkid. When we took a hiatus in 2012 after having been a band since '97. Um, TV wanted to take a break from music and focus on other things, and I was
I
totally
remember
supportive
that.
of it. And like it was one of those things where I had the choice, and he'd given me the blessing, like to go on with the band and call it Blitzkid, and
Right.
find new members. And for me, I realized what Blitzkid was. I knew that it was the core was he and I, and it had been. We were the ones who kind of stuck through it thick and thin the whole way,
Right.
and
And
I knew
that's
that.
great.
Well, yeah, thanks, man. I knew that from a fan, it would be easy for me to do that. I could have just said it was Blitzkid, and maybe people would have just bought the record and been like, "Wait a minute," but haha, I already sold the record. I didn't want to do that. I looked at Blitzkid as something that was like, and still do, special not only to me, but the people that listen to it. And like I didn't want it to turn into like a factional thing. And you can understand this, having been in the situation that you were in. Like some people go, I like this version of the band, or I like when this singer was in the band. And I didn't want to do that to Blitzkid. I wanted it to be something that remained what it was, and like I wanted to take it to a place where if we had to put it on a shelf for a while, we could, and we could revisit it later if the time was right and it felt right, which we did.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I just decided to call it the Roving Midnight Argyle Goolsby because the way that band worked was it was just me. My band changed frequently. Like if I went to Germany and toured, I would work with a German band. If I
Hmm.
flew out to California, I would work with a band from California,
And how did I
Canada.
got to ask? What's it like having like going to Germany and having a bunch of guys in a band that you've never worked with before? play your songs? Like, did you, or because I'm like a perfectionist, and like, and if somebody makes
Yeah.
one friggin' mistake, I'm like, no, you did it wrong. Like, how did that work out for you? Were you
So
comfortable or not?
yeah, it was. I mean, I guess it helped because Blitzkid, it never, we never, things never worked as planned live for us. Like we were always, we didn't even have tuners for like the first 8 years of the band, and that's no joke, man. That is no, we were already playing festivals in front of like 20,000 people, and we were like, I was like, let me hear your E, wah, wah, wah. And like
Oh,
TV's
it's
like
just like the
20 feet
Misfits show.
across, like 20 feet away from me on stage, and we're in front of like and like I'm like this, no, go back down, and we had like say, like this is E, A, D, and we were doing that forever. So like I was kind
That's
of used to things
hilarious.
not being perfect. It honestly was
That's
kind
so
of like
funny.
what made the band work. And it sounds crazy, but like retrospectively, like I really feel that way. Like we didn't have guitar cases. Like we were flying with gig bags, man, and putting
Okay,
those in the plane, gig
in the
bags.
plane.
It was insane. The stuff that we would do. I was tuning my bass completely wrong up until like 2009. That's the truth. We were on a tour with a band called the Resurrects, and the guitar player was in this band called the Necromantics.
Oh, I love
And
that band. They're great.
yeah, dude. And so the guitar player Troy was from the Necromantics, and he was playing in the Resurrects on this tour. This was 2006, and we were in Denmark, I think it was, and I was backstage, whine, 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 womp, 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 with the strings, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm changing my strings. Why?" He goes, "But why are you putting your strings on that way?" And I was like, and I thought he meant like size wise. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, no, like the big string's here, the next string, the
The
small
big
string.
string goes here, the little
Yeah,
string
right.
goes there.
And I'm not formally trained on anything, dude. I learned how to play music for Blitzkid. That's it. Like,
There you go.
and
That's
I wanted to
exactly
be
what
the
I did with
band.
Empire Hideous. I had no idea how to write music. I
Same
wrote the
here.
music, and it just became what it became for Empire Hideous. So yeah, we're in
Right.
the same boat on that.
And I think that the way that it all began, that impetus, like that, just kind of the desire to make it work without really knowing how to make it work, carried the band. And going back to the strings, though, like they're supposed to wind from the bottom up to the, but I was winding from the top over, so I would hit the strings, and like my strings, if I hit them hard enough, would just fly off. And I thought it was like, oh, my strings are coming off because I'm playing so hard, but
Oh my
like
god, that's so funny.
and it would get to the point where like we would just keep playing. I would just tune my A string down to E as quick as I could, and then my D string, which I never used because I could only play two strings at that time, down to A.
So punk rock.
And like, but that's what I'm saying, man. Like, and it wasn't meant to be that way. It's just how we worked, and like I think that's what made the band work, and
Sure.
like that's what people I think love Blitzkid so much was there was no pretense, man. We would show up with no merch at all. If you and anyone who's watching this podcast who ever saw Blitzkid can attest to that. We had a record come out in 2006, Five Sellers Below, and we toured for 3 months straight, and we had no merch at all.
That's
And I
amazing.
look back on it, I don't know how we did it. That's my point. Is like it's like Mr. Magoo, where he walks off the building and the beam comes up, and then he just walks off the other side. Um, so to answer your question about how I felt about working with people without really that safety net, I just kind of went with it, man. And I trusted the band in that regard because a lot of the people that I worked with, while they were folks that I hadn't played with on stage before initially, they were from bands that I knew or that we played with, and sometimes
Okay.
a mixture of people. So I knew that they were proficient. And what was fun about it was, for example, there's a band a lot of people know, like the Crypt Keeper Five from Trenton,
Yeah,
been
I know.
around forever. Blitzkid's played
Yep.
with them a ton. They were like kind of my primary backing band in the Roving Midnight because of
Oh, okay.
location.
I
Like me
didn't
being in
realize that.
Connecticut, those guys practiced twice a week. It was easy for them to rehearse the stuff. But what was cool about it was when you saw the Roving Midnight with the Crypt Keeper Five, it sounded a little bit like the Crypt Keeper Five because that's who they are. And then if I
Yeah, that
could,
happens when you play with musicians
right.
who are already a group and working with themselves and have their own style,
Hmm.
their own character, their own sound, and then you come in with your music, and even though your music is written a certain way, the musicians who have already been working together for God knows how long, they're going to have a touch of their own style with your
Exactly.
music, which is a
And
problem. Again, something else I always had to deal with, especially if I got a new guitar player. Here I got, like, at the time, I had like 3 albums out. Get a new guitar player, and this guy's playing like all different. So I'm like, what are you doing? Now play what you hear. Play
yeah,
the stuff, because like when we play a gig, people are going to want to hear the song that they know, and they're going to want to hear it the way it was recorded. So no
right.
leads, no harmony. Do what I did, and that's why I used to constantly go through musicians. So I know what you're talking about.
Well, I think it was easier for me in the sense that the Roving Midnight was a newer band. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there really wasn't an established anything other than myself and the players, right? The music itself was relatively concurrent with, the live thing. Like, it was just, it all came kind of at once. So,
Mm.
like, again, I would play with Nim Vind from Canada and we would sound a little bit like Nim Vind. So that was fun. But again, you made a good point there too about things needing to be a certain way. The only time that I felt like I was a little like focused on that was I would do a couple of Blitzkid songs in the set. I wouldn't overdo it. I would do like maybe 2 or 3 out of like 17 songs would be Blitzkid tunes. And for those, I would try to like make sure that the songs were as close to their representation as possible because those songs were established, whereas mine really weren't. I was just kind of building them around the live experience, honestly.
Right, right. Well, that's amazing stuff. All right, folks, we're going to take a little short break here. We're going to go behind the scenes, do a little coke and heroin, and drink some alcohol, and then we'll be back because we're rock and rollers, and that's what we do. Now, as my cat just fell off the fucking shelf, did you see that? You were
I
not
did. I
supposed to
saw.
be up there. That was pretty cool. Did you see that? The cat went
I
flying
did.
by.
Mine are like stalking around the floor. I'm just waiting on them any minute to do the same thing. So
So,
I got
folks, we'll
two.
be
I'm just.
right back. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in any of the merchandise that I sell, you can go to MykeHideous.com. Just like the name of our program here, Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. If you go to MykeHideous.com, you can get my book, which is called King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit. It is about my years as a performer and a musician, and covers a range from 1988 to 2014. It also talks about my short but very successful point in time when I sang for the famous punk rock band known as the Misfits from Lodi, New Jersey. And you can also get my t-shirts, my horrible artwork, horror design, blankets, t-shirts, throw pillows, girls' dresses, so on and so forth, as well as my music, downloadable CDs. What else? I don't even. Just go to the damn website and check it out. So yeah, that's what I got. You can, and the most recent thing is the book. Hopefully I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have a whole bunch of new t-shirts up and ready to go for sale. And that's not just the music stuff from Empire Hideous, the band that I was in, but this whole other section of design of clothing that I have with my artwork designs on them, and I call it horrible artwork. And it's going to be all kinds of stuff like that, old, creepy stuff. In case anybody doesn't know my background, I kind of dabble in the occult, so all creepy, cool stuff like that. So yeah, folks, if you're interested in anything, go to MykeHideous.com. Click on the shop section and go down, and a couple other clicks and you're there. Thanks very much, guys. And we're back. Okay. We have our first interview and a special guest and a good friend, Mr. Argyle Goolsby from Blitzkid and the Roving Midnights, or the Roving Midnight and the Hollow Bodies. And so, for those of you who have just tuned in, great guy, very very talented. So I have a question for you. In your jack of all trades, uh, you have a little thing that I noticed. You are an ordained minister.
That's right. Yeah, it's true.
That's pretty interesting. So am I, as a matter of fact. Let me
Oh yeah,
guess. Universal Church.
that's it. You know it, man. Yep.
Now I got to ask. Now, have you married people?
I've done two. Yeah, that's it.
Two.
That's all I've
I've
done.
done none. Although I am ordained and I could marry
Yeah.
someone, I've not done any. I always wanted to do something like that, but I've no one's asked me. Then again, I haven't really published that or made it known. Like, hey, if you want to get married by me, my kiddies, I'll marry you. In hell. Um,
I hear you, man. Yeah, like I would love to do more. Honestly, it's just a lot of it. Is travel. Do you know what I mean? And,
yeah.
it's time. It's just
Well, at least
it's
you're
it's
compensated for that, though, right?
yeah. It's just sometimes I have to kind of plan everything out. Like when it comes to December, man, I plan my whole year out the best I can for the
Mm.
next year and all aspects of my projects, and then like I try to make room for certain things that may come up. And it's just the wedding stuff is few and far between. So usually when it does come up, I don't plan for it.
Mm.
So I don't really have the time to do it as much as I'd like to, I guess.
Understandable. That's quite interesting. All right, so moving right along from that, let's talk about your most recent album. And when I say recent album, it could
Mm,
be any of your projects that you want to really promote, whether it's Blitzkid or your personal stuff, your own solo project.
sure.
What's the latest that Argyle Goolsby has put out, and
Mm.
the title? Tell us all about it.
Yeah. So the most recent thing that I've put out that I've been a part of was a remastered, remixed Blitzkid record, which is the first of many that we're going to put out. And kind of the backstory on that is, well, I should go back to the original recordings. Going back to what we were speaking of earlier, like we really didn't have a plan, and we didn't really even have, like any. We had drive, but we were just oblivious to all the things that we need to do, like crossing our T's and dotting our I's in the studio and everything. So, and you can understand this too because back in the '90s, late '90s, early 2000s, it was the wild west of the digital age. It was just starting, and so if you were in the studio, there was like any given number of systems that you could be operating on that were either tape, analog, or digital, or a hybrid. And all of the Blitzkid early records that we recorded on was on a system called Otari Radar, and it was a hybrid between a hard drive and tapes. And like it lasted probably for about 3 years, and we recorded three of our best records on this thing. So when it came time for us to like to do something with them, which was actually last year, I can go into that as to why it took us so long. Um, we had to track the tapes down, and it took me forever to find the tapes. But when I did track them down, it took me equally
When
as
let
long.
me interrupt you. When you say
Sure.
tapes, you mean reel to reel or cassette?
So Otari, the radar, the way that they were is they were like they were like mini VHS tapes. So they
Yeah.
were on tape.
Okay.
But so I should say like the first thing we did was on a Tascam 4 track,
No,
and then
yeah,
we
I
did
still
an
have mine.
actual
I still have mine.
yeah. Yeah, we did the first real album, Terrifying Tales, was on a reel to reel, just like a big reel of tape. And then the next three were Otari, and then we did some ADAT stuff before we got to digital, like truly digital. But we got our back catalog back. Like I guess to jump back, we signed a deal with Sony Records. Blitzkid did in 2012,
Really?
and
I
they
was unaware of that. Congratulations. Well, are
thanks,
you
man.
still with
Yeah,
it?
it was crazy. I think they were trying their hand at like horror punk, and they decided to try us, and then we broke up literally right before the record came out, and they were like, "All right, we're
Wow.
done."
Wow,
Um,
that's really impressive. I was unaware of that.
Thanks, man.
Good
Well,
for
it was a
you.
subsidiary. It was Century Media, which is
I
was
know who they are. Yeah, they were
yeah.
going to sign us one time at one point in my life.
Yeah, and they were cool, man. Don't get me wrong. It's just like the band just kind of like it dissolved at a bad time from
That's too
like I
bad.
guess like that a business standpoint. But like when they gave us the record, it's called Apparitional. That's the one we recorded for them. They gave us like a budget, and we gave them the publishing and the copyright, so they own all that. But what
Oh,
they wanted is, I know it sucks,
I know.
but what they wanted was for collateral at that time, just in case the record didn't sell, was a licensing for a term of our back catalog, which was everything we'd done up to that point. And it was for like 10 years. And this was signed in like 2012. So we gave them all of our back catalog. And at one point they were asking us, they were like, where are your master tapes? We want to do this stuff on vinyl. We have no idea where any of this stuff is. We never thought to get anything from any studio we were ever in. Hand to God. So they were like, we want to put this out on vinyl and remix it. We're like, your guess is as good as ours where those tapes are.
Mm.
And it got me thinking over that 10 years, like, I should probably find these tapes. So our term with Century Media ended in 2022, just as we had left for tour, like our first tour in 12 years. So we got everything back. And in that meantime, I had found the tapes. So jumping ahead to like our newest release, we always wanted to remix those records because we didn't take the time to really listen to what we were doing in the studio. And I love those records. And people often say to me, like, well, do you not like them? Like, why do you want to change them? And it's not that I don't like them. It's like listening to Earth AD. Like, I understand why people love it. But, like, if you're a musician, you hear stuff that, like, in Earth AD where you're like, there's one side of it, which is energy and passion. Then there's the other side where you're like, these dudes got this done in like literally 2 hours. And like
Pretty much.
as you get older and like as your I guess like skill sets evolve, you start noticing things like that, even if you don't mean to. So like
Mhm.
it started wearing on me a little bit because as I got better in the studio, I was like, I really wish we could have done these songs better justice had we paid attention to them. So um, that was the big process. Let's revamp is what we called it. Like we're going to revamp our entire back catalog, and we started with 2003's Trace of a Stranger because 2023 this past year was 20 years, so we just figured we would start with that record. We have to work our way back a little bit before we can move forward again, before we get all of them in the back catalog. But that came out, Trace of a Stranger revamped in August of last year. So it's just completely everything is remixed, remastered, and we didn't want to remove the old again, like the old record from people's like listening
Listening
choice.
pleasure.
Yeah. So it's still up on like Spotify, and we're gonna leave all of them. Like we're gonna just do this series like that runs next to the original. So if you want to hear the old version, it's there. You can listen to it. But if you just want to hear what it sounds like with a bass line actually mixed in it, then you
Like
can
more,
go do that too.
yeah, more refined, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people
So,
who are like, I thought you guys were just remixing it. You added a lot of stuff to this. And we're like, no, that's
oh,
just stuff you didn't
you didn't
hear.
hear it,
Like
right?
that's the
Right.
point.
So based on having on your answer uh, to the question is my next question, which is have you switched? And I'm assuming you have, going from recording in studios with a large mixing board and all that,
Hmm.
not so much always analog, but you got the knobs and the switches and the dials and all that jazz. And now in this new digital age, everybody's switching to they're going into like somebody's basement or a bedroom,
Right.
and they're just recording into a computer. Are you I guess my question is, I'm assuming you've recorded in recording studios and now you're doing the digital thing. Do
Hmm.
you prefer a studio over doing a, a computer recording?
So I actually I have not recorded an album solely on like a DAW like home system yet. I'm not opposed to doing it, but like I'm technically limited. As I said, like again, I never even used a tuning pedal, not to keep harping on that because I didn't know how to plug it up. So like I'm very that's my Achilles heel is technology. Like I'm all good at like running around and you know, selling it and making it look cool, and because that's me. But like when I have to sit down and like distill it into technology, I lose it.
I
So I
understand.
have to have someone help me with that.
Yeah.
And that's why I've never really made the leap. And I am comfortable in studio environments. solely because that's where the lion's share of stuff that I've created is. So I've come to develop uh, a certain sense of operations in a studio, like how to work and how things feel, and that's important to me. Like being in an area that feels good. Um, but I'm not opposed, what I'm saying, to doing it. I do have like Logic Pro. I use Logic Pro X on like a MacBook, but I do that for primarily demoing. I'll flesh ideas out. It has like a drum machine, and it's just better than me getting on my phone and humming things out. And
Mm. Oh, you do that
it
too?
oh yeah, 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 I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it, man. And and then I never label them right, like what it is. Or if they are labeled, it's something that makes no sense to me when I go back and look at it. Like, what
Oh
is
my
what
God.
is
We're
bump a
s-
bump, whoa,
we're
whoa, yeah,
yeah,
man.
we're very similar in that because I do the same thing. I'll pull out my acoustic guitar, start playing a couple notes, and I'm humming, and then
Yeah,
I'll label as song in E.
yeah, dude. Or the worst thing I'll do is be like acoustic song part one, but then
That
I'll do that for every acoustic
yeah
song.
yeah.
And I don't say like acoustic song one part one, acoustic song two part two. It's just acoustic song,
Part
and then I
A,
figure it out.
sublevel C, section 123. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, man. It's
So
like an act of Congress to figure it out. So
so you're still doing. I'm assuming you're still working with producers and engineers in recording studios to do your stuff.
yeah, not so much producers, but yeah, engineers.
That's
I
great.
generally like we. I just kind of I produce it by doing pre-production.
Right.
That's my main. That's the main thing for production for me is I try. That's why I demo. I get as much pre-production as I can
Right.
because again, going back to Blitzkid, the lesson I learned is we would go in the studio and we would just ride that excitement, which again worked. It made the albums something that they otherwise wouldn't have been. That I think made them unique, and
Good.
people were able to like kind of like grab onto. But in not taking our time and rushing through it, we would just be like, the song's done. We would go in, and then an hour, the album would be done, or like 15 minutes, the song would be done. And by the time we started playing it live, we played it completely different by the time the record
That
came out.
happens. It evolves as you start
Right.
getting better and better at playing it. You know.
So we were like, we have to take time. Like we really, and we started that with the record Five Sellers Below. That's the first time we ever did a demo ever.
So,
And we just,
if I may interrupt you, do you know? Do you realize what you've done now? You've gone from being a punk rock band to being more organized and more. How would I put it? Just taking more care in what you're producing. Let's face it, a
yeah.
lot of punk rock bands, and I know I was punk rock when I was younger. You're out there, you're just rocking it because you want to rock it, and that's what punk is. It's a raw style of, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It's a raw style of immature music that
Yeah.
eventually matures to a level of perfection for whoever that musician is. Writing that song or
I agree.
making it better. So yeah, you've basically gone through a transition, if you will, to being a better band and a better musician.
Yeah, I think so, and it's going through, trial and error. And I don't consider all those things error. Again, they're happy, like Bob Ross would say, like happy mistakes. That I still try to keep involved. Like I try not to, that element is needed for me, that like X factor of, okay, like I can organize it, I can prepare, but I also need to let it breathe. You know what I mean?
Of
And
course.
be whatever is the inspiration behind what I'm
And
doing.
sometimes you got to step away from it, as you said, to let it breathe and just kind of let it. You get ear fatigue after a while. You
Yeah.
hear the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. You got to step away. It's like with writing. It's like with painting, and music. Excuse me, one second, cat. Please commit suicide. Get down. Get down.
Bad kitty.
Oh my God. Anywho, all right. So moving right along. Um, so you're playing a lot in other countries, Germany, even
Mhm.
Russia, right? Russia,
Yeah, we've been there twice.
Russia, and what was the other one? Was it the Chechnya, Czech Republic?
Yeah, Czech Republic.
Czech
We've been to
Republic.
South America.
Where in South
I
America?
we were in Curitiba and then Sao Paulo. We were actually we did a. It was weird, man. We did a 2 day thing with Slim Jim Phantom from the Stray Cats. He had a band.
Oh my gosh.
and it was Slim Jim Phantom and some guy that played in Hepcat or Headcat with Lemmy. I think
Wow.
maybe they both played in Headcat with Lemmy, and they were doing. I can't remember, but it was a funny situation, man. Like, God bless him, he had no idea who we were and was not happy that we were there. Like
No
at
kidding.
first, it was funny, man. Like I say that like in a nice way because what happened was,
That you're talking about Slim from
yeah, we
Yes.
traveled together for like between the two shows, and I remember him being he popped up in the back of the van when we got in. He goes like, "Who are these guys? Why are they here?" We were like. And at first, he was kind of arguing with the manager, like, oh, this wasn't supposed to be like this, or supposed to be separate transportation. We're just like, this is awkward.
What are you gonna
But
do?
no, he talked to us afterwards. He was just like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, it's not you guys. It's like I always run into this when I'm in South America. Like, you guys are cool. So we ended up like actually hitting it off really well with him. But
It,
I
it
was just start.
it's good when you can meet somebody who's on that level of fame,
Yeah.
and they can be decent people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's an old saying that they always tell you: be nice to the people on your way up because they're the same people you're going to see on your way down.
That's it, man. Yeah.
And sometimes people get just so big headed with uh, their own. What am I trying to say? Their own fame. They
Yeah.
just think that they're so much better than everybody else, and that I don't know. I never really found myself to be like that, and it's good that you experienced something with a guy like Slim from the Stray Cats, where
Yeah.
he at least apologized and said it wasn't your fault. Music, as you know, is a very difficult, cutthroat, dog eat dog business, and it's really unapologetic and merciless.
Yeah.
So it's good that you went through that, and at least he was cool with you.
Yeah, no, he was great, man. We've been fortunate. I mean, for the most part, I've been fortunate personally not to really have run into too much of that. And yeah, I
Mhm.
always try to like you're saying, like I try to keep it humble,
Yeah,
man, just
on the
because like it got. I look at things like anything can be taken away from you, in a moment's notice.
That's right.
Like we're not guaranteed anything. So if people like what I do and like they want to like talk to me about it, like I try to make myself available. Social media makes it hard to be honest with you because like it's just an overwhelming amount sometimes, and people get lost in the shuffle, and that's what I hate about that aspect of like kind of where things are in music now is like you know people are drawn closer together through social media, but it makes it hard for artists to really like connect, the way that we want to, the way I want to, because again, I'm independent. I've got 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to get everything I'm trying to get done. And I'm on like a tight schedule, man. And again, I don't mean to be like, oh, I'm busy. I'm on my cell phone, excuse me. But
But it's
like
true. You're like the
it's,
busiest guy I know in a band. Really. I think
it's,
the only other person I ever met that was as busy as you, but it was only with one band, was Henry Rollins from Black Flag.
I
That
take that as a
guy,
compliment.
well, I mean, that guy, they were literally on tour like
Yeah.
364 days a year out of 365 days. Um,
Yeah.
but you're doing all different projects, and I mean not only with your band, the artwork that you produce, doing the tattooing when you do book somebody, and whatever else. You got your family, right? You're
Yeah.
married man. Do you have kids? You have little ghouls?
No, I have little cats.
Oh, there you go. Close enough.
So,
Um, so you're married. You got a house. You're or an
yeah.
apartment at least. You're paying rent, and you're doing a lot. And I know that's got to be overwhelming at some point. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But as I said, like just being able to put out whatever you're working on, and then people responding to it. Like I said, that's for me. Like I feel fortunate because I know, like I'm taking a gamble every time
That's
I
right.
pull out the credit card or I go, all right, well, this is my week, and I'm spending something, working and working and working, and that week turns into a month. That month turns into a couple of months, and then it's go time to put out whatever you're doing, or put it out there, and people respond to it. When they respond to it well, you're like, okay, like if it wasn't for this, I couldn't do what I'm doing. So like that keeps me, aware of, like the humility of it all. I guess the point I was making earlier is, like I hate sometimes like people will be like, oh, I wrote that guy on Facebook and he just left me on red. And I'm like, dude, it sucks because like sometimes like you know,
Can't do it all
and
at
I'm not trying to sound like Santa Claus or anything, but like sometimes I have like 100 messages in there, and I'm like,
sure.
I don't even know where to start, man, because I'm just a dude. You know what I
I
mean?
know,
Like,
and you're trying to do everything else to put out to your fans so that they appreciate
yeah,
what your efforts are, and at the same time trying to remember everybody's names. But on that note, I do have to ask you this. Let's talk about your guitars, okay? Now I see
sure,
behind you, you've got a couple of very interesting pieces. Now
yeah,
let me make sure I understand this correctly. You design them,
I
and
did.
somebody else makes them for you, correct?
Yeah. So,
Now, hang on. Before you even introduce that, I got to
yes,
say this. I saw the name, and it might have been that guitar that you just picked up, or the bass. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Is that one the Haxan?
it is the Haxan.
Okay, let me just tell you the Haxan is one of my favorite silent films
Oh yeah.
about witchcraft and Satanism. So go ahead and talk about the Haxan.
Yeah, so yeah, on that note, that's one of my favorites too. I love silent films. You can just look at any Blitzkid record and
Oh, yeah.
see like
Yeah.
the covers that we always try to like do something in that vein. So I'll take you back to 2001. TB and I were working in West Virginia at a telemarketing company called Civic Development Group, which by the way ended up being on HBO Max recently on a documentary called Telemarketers, documenting the largest telemarketing fraud in the history of America. I was there. Um, a New Jersey-based company, right? And
No
like they
kidding.
would go into like these financially destitute areas where no one would question what was going on, like West Virginia, and offer people like $10 an hour, which we were like mind blown. So we're at this place working, and just saving up money for recording, speeding tickets, any other random things that would happen in our life, and we were like, I remember TB and I worked there together, and we sat together for the most part till they separated us. But
Like in school. Stop
it really,
talking.
dude, so many Blitzkid songs got wrote at that place, written at that place. I'm not kidding, man. Like
I
that's
know.
where I got the name Goulsby.
I Go ahead.
I
I
used
don't
to.
want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say, like, we didn't start out with monikers. We just kind of like went into that, like, TB Monstrosity, Argyle Goolsby. I was going as Steve Zombie Eater Matthews because I love Faith No More. Faith No More is one of my favorite bands, and
Is it?
yeah, and then the real thing, the song Zombie Eaters. Long story, but like I had a tape in my car, and like it was always on that song. But I was like, no, I want to change my name, and I called a guy whose last name was Goulsby, and I was like, that's it. So that's where that came from. But the
Wow.
bass, we thought we would get our tax returns at young 21-year-olds. Like we're gonna have so much money. It wasn't shit, but like in the meantime, we thought like when we get our tax returns, we're going to get like custom made instruments, and I designed them at that point in time, and then we got our tax returns and realized like there was no way we would ever afford custom instruments. And they literally this design sat on a piece of cardboard in my basement for I don't know like almost 2 decades. But I was
That
over in the UK back in 2019, I believe it was, and I saw this kid walking through the crowd, and he had like a Jerry only bass, and he was going up to the merch table with it, and I was like, "Where did you get that bass?" And he's like, "I made it." I was like, "No way!" And he's like, "No, I did." And I looked at it, and from what I can tell from instruments, you know what I mean, like it looked really well made. And I told him more or less like about my design, and he's like, "Send it to me." And I did, and I didn't think anything else about it. And I was back in the UK a year later, and he came to the show, and he just walked through the crowd with it and handed it to me.
Oh my God, that's great.
And I was just like, "This is insane, right?" Like I've wanted to see this my whole life, whole career. And yeah, so that's how that started out. And the guitar was one that I designed. This was called the Grimmalkin, which to the cat point is an old English word for a cat.
Interesting. They are
Yeah, man.
beautiful. I really love the
Thank
Haxan.
you.
So now I got to ask: is that inspired from the whole Doyle guitars?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like we're old, like horror punk kids. Like
Mm.
we were there, like everyone was when Famous Monsters came out. We're
A-
like, whoa, look at
And
the Annihilator, the Devastator.
having said that, does your bass, I should say, does your bass have a volume control? Does it have controls for your bass?
Yeah, it's not just hot wired. No,
Okay, because
it
Doyle's bass or Doyle's guitar, basically you plug it in, it's just like.
yep, dude. I was there. I played with Doyle for 4 years in a band, and like I would not, I could not walk on his side of the world. We called it like, 'cause it was just this sonic assault. You know what I mean? When you walked over there, I was like, I don't know how you do this, dude.
Now, for those of you who don't know, who are listening to this, Argyle and myself, we both had an opportunity to play in, or I should say, work with the guys from the Misfits. Now, I actually sang in the Misfits in '98. I did 2 tours with them, for those of you who don't know. Then Argyle played for Doyle's project, which is a Gorgeous Frankenstein, right?
Yeah, at the time, and then
At
it
the time.
changed to Doyle.
Okay. So we both had the opportunity, the privilege, if you will, of performing with those guys. And you just said how playing with Doyle, like he had his side of the
Hmm.
stage. Let me tell you a little story real quick. The first show I ever did with them was in Scotland. It was the first show ever. Now I rehearsed with them once in a while, and I had known them for years, and I know how loud they were. But when I got on, and mind you, the stage was probably as big as this little alcove that I'm talking to you in. So maybe like 15 feet by 6 feet. So we're all jammed on this stage, and he hit the first note. Mind you, I had no earplugs in, nothing. But I come out, I'm ready to sing, and he hits the first note, and I thought my brains flew out of my ear. That's how loud it was. And it was after that show that I couldn't hear. I was literally like my ears were ringing.
Yeah.
And at that point, I made a decision, the conscious decision, to wear earplugs for every show because it was enormously loud. And that's why those guys are so deaf at this point. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
say, but their hearing is, especially Jerry, he's tone deaf, and he cannot hear because that's like 25 at the time when I was in the band. It was 25 years that they had been playing, or
Mm.
were around, I should say. Now it's almost 50, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
Close
Yeah.
to it,
So
at least. In
it's
any
getting
event,
there.
so yeah, I know what that's like. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. Again, beautiful guitars, absolutely
Thank you.
gorgeous. I love the flat black look on them. I really dig that.
Yeah, man. It's kind of like I said. This one, it's like a cat headstock. That's why it looks like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what I would do is I'll leave the strings untrimmed so it has whiskers.
There you go. That's perfect. What a great idea.
Yeah, man, they're cool, dude. We made some production models. I think we made like 6 of these and like 10 of these. So
I was supposed to have, not to get off the topic here, but I was supposed to have a guy in Pennsylvania, as a matter of fact. He was supposed to, he makes his own guitars, and they're really beautiful. He was supposed to take some of my artwork and put it on the guitars. I had this whole contract worked out with him and everything. Sadly, I don't know what has happened, but he's kind of MIA. And there's a couple people, well, at least one other guy I know that had a guitar that was going to be made by him. He had a whole contract deal worked out with this guy, and sadly, it never got done. So I was really hoping, not to say I wanted my own line of guitars, that would be nice, but I wanted my artwork on
yeah,
the guitars, because I've done some interesting things, if I toot my own horn here, but unfortunately, it never happened. Whether it's going to happen in the future, I don't know. Either way, I'm very happy for you that you have these guitars. They're absolutely beautiful. I see that they're for sale on your website, the Blitzkid website, and
yeah.
that's great. Good luck with them, man. I hope
Thanks,
that
man.
works out.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's cool. Like
Wonderful.
I still play like a Fender Aerodyne from time to time. That was my go-to prior to this. But yeah, it's basically built to scale like an Aerodyne. So I play it primarily now.
On a question not on my list, you just mentioned that you like black and white silent films. I'm
Hmm.
a huge fan of black and white silent films as well. Any particular favorites of yours?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious for me is like Nosferatu,
Oh,
the
of course.
FW Renal version. Like, I ended up doing like a score for it like back in 2020 because the museum that I was telling you I work at, the curator, the guy who started it, he started it when he was 13, and he started collecting films even when he was like 14, 15 years old. And he would get stuff from the Museum of Modern Art, and they actually had a copy of Nosferatu that came from the Cinémathèque La Francoise, which was where Nosferatu went when it ended up getting coming under scrutiny in Germany because of the Stoker family. Like, right, it was an unauthorized
Right.
adaptation of Dracula,
Right.
and the whole production, it was Murnau and that whole crew.
They got sued for that.
Yes, and then so the German courts ordered all the copies to be destroyed.
That's right.
Some copies made their way, to different countries like Czech Republic and yada
Mm-hmm.
yada, and there are versions that are, I guess, more extensive depending on where it went. But the primary one that we have in America that we saw, at least here in the States, like if it was ever shown on TV or whatever prior to DVD and VHS, was from France, and that went to the Museum of Modern Art. And then they ended up releasing it officially. The film itself, I shouldn't say they, but the film got released in 1929. It was called the 12th Hour, the Zwölfte Stunde in German, and that's the basis of all Nosferatu films that you see here. But Cortland had a copy from Museum of Modern Art that had no music on it, and the actual print is different than the one that most people had seen up into the point that this got digitally transferred from film onto to digital, which is what we used. And I did a whole score for it. And like the way that it works with copyright for a lot of that stuff is the title cards and the music, right? Those are the copyrightable assets of those early films. So I redid the title cards and just did the music and sat in studio and really sweated the entire time that I was like ruining my favorite movie of all time. But
I gotta mention this to you. Did you saw the movie The Witch, right?
yeah,
Okay.
Robert Eggers.
Great film, right?
Yeah.
It's in my top 5 at this point.
Yeah, it's a good one, man.
I absolutely loved that film. Now, you may or may not be aware of this, but Robert Eggers is redoing Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's going to come out Christmas Eve, 2024. I'm waiting.
That's right. Yeah, I'm waiting too. I remember when the announcement was made. I even tried contacting Robert because I'm really a fan of his. I really enjoyed the other movies he did. Shit, I can't remember the one, The Lighthouse. I think it's called.
Lighthouse. Yeah, he did.
William Dafoe. And there is talk, or rumors, I should say, that they're going to have William Dafoe play the part of Nosferatu since he did such a great job in the film. What was it called? Shadow of the Vampire.
Shadow of the Vampire. Yeah, Elias Marish.
Yes,
yeah, the director.
Thank you. Another fantastic film. So anyway, what I'm getting on is that when I read that they were going to do the remake of the original Nosferatu, I practically wet my pants because the only other close, or I should say true to the original, is the German version called
Nosferatu the Vampire.
The Vampire, right. Nosferatu the Vampire.
Werner Herzog.
No, who played...
it was directed by Herzog. It was Klaus Kinski.
Klaus Kinski, right. And he played a magnificent role.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, when I found out that this was going to be redone like the original, I was so excited because it is one of my favorite films. But I do have a couple other favorites in the black and white silent film era. The Golem.
Oh, love it.
Great film, right? Yeah. Another one, what's it called? Damn. I'll have to come back to it. But there are so many great black and white silent films. I know. Faust.
Oh, yeah. That's another Murnau. Another
it is,
guy who directed Nosferatu.
And he did quite a few. And just great. And it was from these, even Haxan, when I saw Haxan, which is, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a film. It's almost like a documentary that was created in, if maybe I'm wrong on the date, 1910, 1909.
Yeah, it was Denmark. It's a Danish film.
Right. Yeah. And in fact, the DVD that I have has an introduction by the director / producer who talks about this film. It's set in German. They have the subtitles for it, but he talks about how he makes the film. And back then, like if you saw Shadow of the Vampire, guys who were making films wore white coats and goggles. That was practically real. I mean, that was
Yeah.
like that was the thing. Like they were almost like they were scientists. Creating this stuff. In any event, yeah, so many great silent films that are out there. The Haxan being one. It's a documentary about Satanism and witchcraft. For those of you who might be interested in it, I highly recommend it. I love it. And there's like 2 or 3 versions of it. One of them is narrated by
Burroughs.
William Burroughs, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, he.
Yeah, I think one of the beat poets. I think it's William S.
Here
Burroughs.
you see a Satanist coming down. He's going to kill someone. Very monotone,
It's
spoken
so
word.
weird.
But yeah, it's good to know that somebody else out there likes silent films like
I love
myself.
him, man. Dude, the museum I work at, Cortland, he has over 500 films on 16 millimeter. It's all in our vault, man.
Wow.
And like it's everything, like Dante's Inferno, like rare
I
stuff.
have that.
Yeah, it's
I
so
have
good,
that.
dude. It's just watch it. You have to come up sometime, man, and just we'll have a silent movie night, man.
No, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. So let me ask you a couple more questions here. I got about 3
yeah,
more
man.
questions, and we'll wrap it up. So tell me about the use of magic in your show, especially with your solo project, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so guys, when I saw Goolsby play at the Mercury Lounge in New York City, I saw his solo band play, which was the Roving Midnight, and he, in addition to this microphone stand that he would climb up like a gargoyle, he also would do magic. So tell me, what inspired you to use magic in your show?
I don't know what to do with my hands. Going back to that, man. I was just like, it's not that it was a lack of confidence, but it was just like, when you're playing, it's just kind of like, at least for me, I can dodge and move around with the space, but like when you're up there singing, it's just like, you get the microphone right here, you're just directing everyone right at your face. And again, it was a new realm for me. I was confident, but at the same time, I wasn't like tried and tested in it, that position yet. So I was just like, as many diversions as I could possibly have to keep people from looking at me. That's what I'm going to do. And that honestly was the impetus behind it. But I always loved magic. I'm not a magician by any means. I don't know. I still get stumped by this. You could be like, and I'm going to be like, how the fuck did you do that? Like, I'm not a professional. But I saw the opportunity to like really, I like involving the crowd too. I mean, that's the other side of it is, I always liked bands, and I've said this in interviews, I think before, but like, I always loved bands that, were good. They could play any kind of music, but like if you got too close to the stage, you were kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I kind of wanted to bring that into it. Not be like mean. I don't want to Gigi Allen people and start like hurling crap at everyone and stuff like that. But like,
yeah, I wouldn't go to your show if you did that.
I wanted to like kind of pull people a little bit out of their comfort zone, as much as I was, I guess. And yeah, so I started doing that, and just like there's the little like flash paper. I would do that.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. Not to interrupt you, but when
No.
in 1990, between 93 and 90, more like 92, 93, I was doing the same thing using flash paper.
Really? That's awesome.
I would do I would read something off this paper during the show, like I was reading a letter or something, and at the end I had a candle, and I would just toss it out over the audience, and this big ball of fire would go over their heads. Now you can't do that anymore because things are so tight in clubs. But you were saying, go on. So you use flash paper and.
Yeah, so so just I guess I should go. I kind of started doing it in Blitzkid. What I did was I just came across like a flash cannon. You hold in your hand, and it has a little igniter, and then poof.
Uh-huh.
And what I did was I cut the aperture that was supposed to hold it on your hand like a ring, and I ducked. Actually, I still have on the back of my headstock right here. As a matter of fact, I'll show you. Sorry, you see this Velcro right there?
Right.
I Velcroed on the back of this. So when I was playing, if somebody got too close or were just being like an asshole or whatever, sometimes just to do it, just to be for fun, I would just aim my headstock and my thumb, I could hit it from back here and no one could see it. So I'd be down here on this first fret, but my thumb would be on the ignition,
right,
and I would just shoot this fireball out of my bass, and people would be like, "What the fuck just happened?" And dude, I had so much fun doing that. Like, so much fun doing that shit, dude. Like it would just blow up in people's faces and
Yeah,
disappear,
yeah.
and you're just like,
One of the first I got to tell you, the first time I saw Kiss, I was oh God, what was I? I think I was 13, and I saw them at Radio City Music Hall, and I had third row seats. Now I was a big Kiss fan, um, so I figured I want to get their attention while I'm in the audience. So I'm on third row, off to the side, and Gene Simmons is right in front of me. So I took a big ball of flash paper, rolled it up, and I was gonna light it and hold it in my hand like that, and that's what I did. So I'm standing on the chair, and I'm holding. I got a lighter in one hand and the ball of flash paper in the other, and I basically just lit it and held it up, and it just, this big fire came out of my hand. Gene Simmons saw it. I mean, how could you not? Everybody saw. I'm surprised I didn't get kicked out of the concert hall. But that thing burned a hole in my hand so bad. I mean, it goes up. It's super hot. But yeah,
yeah,
that another fun story of
it
flash paper.
it burns quick, but it burns hot, man. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you if it ends up on you, and especially like a giant ball, right? It's going to take a while for
Yeah,
that to dissolve.
holding it. But
No, that's
wow,
crazy, man.
that
But
that is.
that's kind of how it all began, man. I just kind of wanted to involve people and just kind of like go out in the audience and just surprise people and just kind of keep people on their toes.
And it's just for your solo project.
Yeah, that's the only time I was really doing it. It started with the flash paper because it kind of was like again like an evolution of the base headstock thing, and then it's kind of worked into other little tricks and gadgetry and
I
things like that.
I see more performance art actually in the Roving Midnight, because you're carrying the lantern and everything. It's more performance art. Again, it's just another thing that I actually stepped into around 93, 94.
Yeah, totally, man. That was kind of I saw an open door again to just do more. Make it more of a like a not cabaret, but like even the clothes that I would wear in the band was very like uh, reminiscent of like a carnival barker. Just kind of
Right.
had that vibe, like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. You
Right, with
know
the
that.
suspenders and the high pants and everything. I remember that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The
So
the
just making it more of like a road show
Well,
than a
you see, you're an artist, and that's where I can tell that when you do things like this, you could definitely see the artist coming out in you, because that's what
Thank you, man.
people like us do. You're welcome. We try to incorporate actions and performance art, if you will, into our music, into our live show, so that it becomes something more than just, a couple of guys in, dirty clothes and sneakers playing guitars and drums.
Yeah.
I think, especially with like death rock and the horror punk, and even gothic rock, some bands have evolved into a very visual display. And I think that's what you did with the Roving Midnight, because, as I said, you had an opportunity where you weren't stuck behind a bass. You had an opportunity to interact, so to speak, with the audience by giving them more of a personal show, as if it were a play, or
Right.
even like a movie. Like I was told one time, this was years ago, somebody described Empire Hideous as being a horror silent film, because we didn't use any colored lights. It was always white light. I had my own lights. We didn't use anything with colors. It was always white, with these white sheets that hung from the ceiling, and smoke. And it just sort of made an atmosphere of what somebody's described as being a silent film, a
I
silent
guess, yeah.
horror film. So I see that a lot with your performance, whether it's Blitzkid or the other projects that you're doing, well, particularly Roving Midnight, where you're adding more than just music. In addition to not just coming out in a t-shirt and tight jeans and sneakers, you're dressing for the part as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, like I always loved old theater too, like the Grand Canal in France, how the I think the most culturally I guess like a good point of the Grand Canal to go back to is like Interview with the Vampire. Like remember when the vampires that when he went to France, that was like as you know, like, it was a real excuse me like society, a real theater society that was gory and kind of played upon like morality and stuff like that, and just shocking people, I guess, in
Right.
a way. But I just love stuff like that, just the
Yeah,
very
it's all part of
stagey.
entertainment.
Yeah, exactly, man,
Mhm.
exactly.
So, as I wrap it up here, what's next for you as an individual? I realize you're doing all these bands and everything, but what's next on the chopping block for you?
Yeah, so couple of releases this year. The revamped stuff that I was talking about earlier. We got some stuff like we're working on there, some old Blitzkid material, um, reworking that. A lot of shows this year.
Yes, I
Actually,
noted
less shows than we played last year, but
you did. If I have to interrupt you, you did 260 shows. What was it in 2009, six?
six. It was a lot, man. Yeah, that's when I say we were on tour for.
206 shows.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, that one year we were like, when I said, "Oh, we were out for 3 months," that one time, that was just part of that year. It was nuts, dude. It was crazy. But
Do you prefer that? Do you like doing a lot of shows, or do you need a break?
yeah. So I mean, the way that it was back then, I don't know if I could do like 300 shows like the way we did in 2006. And that doesn't mean like, oh, I need my Tempur-Pedic mattress and all my shit. It's not like that. It's just like it's about sound now. I mean, we would play anywhere. We played basements of churches. Like we played, we played libraries. We played, you name it. Like, and it never sounded good, but we didn't either, so it didn't matter.
And I'm
Um,
assuming you didn't get paid for all those gigs.
no, I mean,
See,
we sometimes we would,
I got
but
to add this. People, if you're looking to be in a band, listen to what Argyle Goolsby just said, because that is one of the most important things. You get the gigs, at least on your first time around. If you're going to go out and do a tour, you're all going to jump in a van, go out and do gigs. Great. You might not get paid. Don't think you got to be a rock star right off the top. You get the gig and you come back next year. You build your audience. And so what Goolsby did is he just said he didn't get paid for all those gigs because they were out. They were paving the way for themselves as a band. That's what you do. So don't think you got to get paid right off the bat, because if you're just going out for the first time, nobody knows you. In fact, probably nobody gives a damn about your band. So you go out there and you make your band known. That's what that's what Goolsby did.
no, that's true, man. Like I look at it like you get paid with the opportunity to make an impression on someone in a way that if done right, those people will come back and see you again, again, yet again, to the point that even when you're not a band, as Blitzkid was for 10 years, they're still there. And that's where you get paid, because then in the long run, it's a long arc. You know what I mean? Like the front end of that, you're getting paid with the opportunity, as I said, to make an impression. And then maybe if you stick with it and prove to the universe that you care about it and the gods and all that stuff, then um, those people will still love you 20 years later. And then when you start playing shows again, it's not just nostalgia for them, but like for us, when we went out for our first time after 11 years, we saw people who were there our age, a little bit older, like there with the nostalgia element, but with their kids. And their kids weren't just there because their parents drug them. They were like, we like your band. Like we legitimately love Blitzkid. Our parents introduced you to us. So that to me that's success. It's you know money and all that stuff. Like if you can make it, great, because yes, it helps fund the dream. But at the end of the day, I mean, all we're left with is what we do. You know what I mean? Like everything else just gets carried away. Like if you can leave something and that gets carried on and carried on and carried on, then I mean that's success, man. That's how you live forever. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a fantastic answer. It's very, very true. Like I said, you got to pave that path for you to come back on. And
Exactly.
what else can I say? Is there anything you'd like to add? I know you got your website, blitzkid.com. You got a couple gigs coming up. I know you got two of them coming up in Jersey. One of them's at the Dark Forces
Yeah, Dark
convention.
Force Fest
Right.
in Parsippany in parole, I
April
believe.
18th, I believe, or something.
Yeah, whatever the Saturday is, we're playing
Right.
that.
A friend of mine's band is also playing on the 19th, which I'm supposed to go and do vocals for as a guest of vocals for one song. But whether or not that happens, I don't know. They're going to play, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do. I
I
hope I
hope you
can.
will. I'd love to
Yeah,
see you,
I
man.
hope so. Are you going to be there for the whole weekend?
We're gonna be there for some of Sunday, but we gotta. Yeah, Sunday's kind of button into some
It,
stuff elsewhere. Yeah.
I am really going to try to get out there for Saturday. I have some things. I do have plans for that day, but if I can get out there, you're going on later in the evening, right?
Yeah, I think we're kind of like I had no idea. Like it's odd to me. Like we're kind of in the top
Yeah.
bill. So it's stabbing westward. I forgot
Yeah,
who is.
there's like 300 bands playing, but you're right.
Yeah,
You guys are up there.
and
You're like
then
pretty much co-headlining. Um, I'm gonna try to get there if I can on Saturday to see you guys. If not,
yeah,
I do apologize, but I will be there on Sunday probably by around noon, latest 1 o'clock. If I catch you, I catch you all. I'll send you a text if I can meet up with you.
yeah.
That
We'll work it
aside,
out.
you're also playing in Teaneck at the place where we did Jason's memorial.
That's right. Yeah,
uh,
debonair.
Debonair Music Hall. So, you know the date off the top of your head?
See, the October 12th.
Okay. So, guys, even if we don't have the dates right now, go to Blitzkid's website, blitzkid.com. Any other websites I should mention?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it. That'll take you like blitzkid.com, a lot of like the argylegoolsby.com, all that stuff gets
So,
redirected to the production thing, a corpse with no name. So if you go to blitzkid.com and it takes you to ACW and PROD, you're in the right place.
right.
It's all
Okay.
there.
I knew
Everything's there,
I
like the
knew them.
store.
I knew that the initials for that a corpse with no name was kind of like the heart of everything, right?
Yeah, it is. That's the umbrella, I guess you'd
Right.
say, or the umbrella.
Okay. So again, guys, you got an opportunity to listen to a great band here. Check out blitzkid.com. Um, anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, I just want to personally say thank you, man. Like it's an
Oh,
honor to be here on here with you and talking with you, man. I always
thank
love
you.
chatting with you and catching up. So to
Thank
be
you.
your first guest on this, man, thank you so much.
I'm really truly honored. Thank you so much for you're not only showing that you're a down to earth good person and a nice guy, but you're also showing that you can appreciate because we only have like one or two listeners on this whole podcast. So
Dude, again, it's not about numbers and all that stuff, man. It's about,
I know.
you
I'm
know,
just saying.
putting something out there that's like
Right.
that's awesome. And that's what I
And,
think you're doing, man. You
and
always have. You've always
we're
been doing
trying.
awesome stuff, man.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I really appreciate it. And I'll tell you, I could not do it without Professor Z, who is my co host, my producer, my engineer, my partner in crime, and a personal friend of mine who, if I didn't have him in my corner, this show would not be happening because, as I said earlier, he's the guy who pushes all the buttons. Is that right, Professor?
That is me. I
There he
enjoy
is.
pushing buttons. Well, that was a great interview, guys. It
Yeah.
was certainly really insightful to learn more about your career, Goolsby.
Thank
It's
you,
quite
man.
impressive,
Yeah,
isn't it? I mean, he's really done a lot.
definitely.
He really has done a lot, and I commend you for all the hard work that you do. And I'll never forget that day that we played together at the Debonair Music Hall for Jason's memorial tribute. You were like on in every band, playing every song. Every time I turn, I'm like, oh, he's up there again. Jesus, what a show off!
Get the hook. Yeah,
So yeah, it was great doing that gig. That the one song that we did together, which I
it was,
believe
man.
was what the hell was that song?
It was it till the end?
No. Oh fuck, I forgot. What anyway, it doesn't matter. Maybe if I can when we have the editing done for this particular show with you, I'll have Professor Z put in a clip from when we did that
That'd be
song
cool.
together.
Yeah, I'd love to
Yeah,
see that.
definitely.
Resident Evil, that's what it was.
That's it. There it
Resident
is.
Evil, one of my favorite Mr. Monster songs.
Same
In any
here.
event, I want to say thank you to Mr. Argyle Goolsby for not only being a very nice guy and coming on this show, knowing that we're still starting out, He was our first interview, and so thank you very much. I really appreciate it, dude.
Thank you, man. My honor.
Hey folks, thanks for listening to Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. Listen, don't forget to check out all my Hideous merchandise, including t-shirts, blankets, hoodies, CDs, and my book, King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit. It's all available only at MykeHideous.com. And don't forget, that's Myke with a Y, M-Y-K-E, MykeHideous.com. And we're back. So I want to again say thank you to Mr. Argyle Goolsby from Blitzkid and the many other projects that he has going on, who doing the interview tonight was like we were literally just having a conversation. It was very easy going to do the interview. And if anybody out there is interested in what he does, I sincerely suggest that you visit his website, check out the gigs. As I said, I know he's got a couple of gigs coming out in Jersey, but they're also doing California, if I remember correctly, going out to Europe and doing Germany, and a couple of things. So wherever you might be listening to this podcast, if you're interested in seeing Argyle's band play, go to the website, blitzkid.com, and you can go in a section where it has tour dates, it has merchandise, it has all kinds of fun stuff you can check out. And go there and get your Blitzkid fill. And there you go. Professor.
Yes.
Would you like to say anything tonight? Because you've been pretty quiet.
Oh, well, I mean, it's your interview, dude, so I wasn't going to interrupt. So,
there's
like you just said,
Z.
it's like you guys are old friends. So it's not like I'm going to interrupt a conversation between two old friends. I'd like to be natural. So,
well, I appreciate
in either
that.
case, yes, I think it was a good evening, guys. And I guess Goolsby, if you had any final thoughts or things that you'd like to say for our audience.
No, again, I just want to say thank you guys for having me, and thanks for everyone out there who's listening and is interested in anything that I'm doing, has been previously interested or may be interested. Thank you.
All right, and we'll have links in the description for all of your social media and stuff, so people can look for that there as well.
Perfect, man. Thanks.
Excellent. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out MykeHideous.com. If you still want to get a copy of my book, King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit, you can get that there, as well as my old CDs and some of the t-shirts that I print by hand, and or some of the stuff that's available that's professionally printed in color. Blankets, pillows, t-shirts, all kinds of junk like that. So yeah, don't forget to check that out. And next week, we will be interviewing a man by the name of Dr. John, who is also a personal friend of mine. And he's got a book that is called, oops, I'm sorry. Is that backwards or forward? Can you?
No, it looks correct.
Yeah,
all
you're
right,
good.
Yes, The Life in the New Dark Age, written by Dr. John. And he's not only going to be talking to us about the book that he's written, which basically covers the goth scene of New Jersey and how he got into it, but it's also going to cover, the interview is also going to talk about some medical issues that Dr. John actually knows about. He's actually a retired doctor. So we're going to talk to him about some interesting things involving the, well, I'm not going to say it now, but some interesting things that are happening to dead people, if you can believe that. So on that note, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to this podcast. And we will see you next time on Finding the Truth with me, Myke Hideous. Thank you, and good night.